Okay, I think we better get on with our next act, which is called You Were Speeding by the Frantics.
Excuse me, young lady. Would you mind getting out of your stream of thought?
What?
Where's the big idea, ma'am?
Oh, I don't understand, officer. I was thinking.
Yep, your mind was wandering all over the place. May I see your degree, please?
Oh, sure. Here.
Take it out of the frame.
Sorry. It's community college learner's permit.
You need a BA to drive this idea home.
Oh, I must have been lateral thinking and not realized it.
Uh-huh.
You see, I had to think fast to get around that mental block back there, and I didn't notice the limits.
This degree has expired, young lady. I should throw the encyclopedia at you.
Wait, is this a controlled bod zone?
Yes, ma'am, it is. See the sign?
School. Well, I guess I'll let my thoughts wander all over the avenue of consideration.
Uh-huh. You almost collided with established dogma back there at those presumptions.
I guess I wasn't thinking straight.
I see. Have you been drinking, ma'am?
A couple of kombuchas, but I'm not logical.
Well, I should stop your thought process right here, but instead I'm going to give you a ticket for quick thinking.
But that's 3 points of my IQ.
Uh-huh. And the fine is a penny for your thoughts.
Well, I'll get back into the flow of normal thought, officer.
You go straight to your inevitable conclusion. It's foregone. You can't miss it.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes, thank you very much, officer.
All right. Off with you now. Kids, too darn smart for their own good.
A bear walks into a kombucha bar and says, I'd like a kombucha and a packet of peanuts. The barman says, why the big pause?
A girl I met said she recognized me from the vegetarian club, but I had never met her before. I'm reading a book about anti-gravity, and I can't put it down.
The report says I'm a blood type A, but it's a type O.
What does a clock do when it's hungry? It goes back for seconds.
I kept wondering why the baseball was getting bigger, and then it hit me.
Da do da da do da 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 do da 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 do da do da 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 do da do da 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 do da da do da 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 do da da do da 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 do da do da 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 do da da do da 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 do da da do da 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 do da do da 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 do da 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 do da 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 do da da. Ta-da!
One-liners by Mitch Hedberg. I wear a necklace because I want to know when I'm upside down. I haven't slept for 10 days because that would be too long. I'm against picketing, but I don't know how to show it. Rice is great if you're really hungry and want to eat 2,000 of something. My friend asked me if I wanted a frozen banana, but I said no, but I want a regular banana later, so yeah. One time a guy handed me a picture. He said, "Here's a picture of me when I was younger." Every picture of you is when you were younger. I want to hang a map of the world in my house. Then I'm going to put pins into all the locations I've traveled to. But first I'm going to have to travel to the top 2 corners of the map so it won't fall down. This one commercial said, "Forget everything you know about slip covers." So I did. And it was a load off my mind. Then the commercial tried to sell me slip covers, but I didn't know what they were. I bought a $7 pen because I always lose pens, and I got sick of not caring. I tried to walk into Target, but I missed. I got my hair highlighted because I thought some strands were more important than others. I wrote a letter to my dad. I was gonna write, "I really enjoyed being here," but I accidentally wrote "rarely" instead of "really." But I wanted to use it. I didn't want to cross it out, so I wrote, "I rarely drive steamboats, Dad."
Barkeep, I have a ginger kombucha.
Certainly, sir.
Heavy on the ginger.
Certainly.
Give it your best shot.
Here we are, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Nice tie.
Bartender, it's just the 2 of us here, right?
That's right, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Beautiful shirt.
Hey, Barkeep. I think I'm going nuts here. Crazy. It's just the 2 of us. I keep hearing these voices, and they're saying these nice things about the way I'm dressed.
It's the peanuts.
The peanuts? What do you mean, peanuts?
You heard me, it's the peanuts. They're complimentary.
Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson go camping.
Watson, look up at the sky and tell me what you see.
I see thousands of stars.
Mm-hmm. And what does that tell you?
Well, astronomically, there's thousands of stars and millions of galaxies and billions of planets. It's amazing. And meteorologically, it's really clear. I think it'll be a nice day tomorrow. Astrologically, there's Jupiter in Pisces and Saturn is in Leo. And it kind of looks like about 3:30 in the morning. What does it mean to you?
Blast, Watson, someone's stolen our tent.
The STOA by Bob and Ray.
Okay, everybody. Thank you for your patience. We're coming back from commercial now.
And this should be interesting, because I haven't had a chance to meet my next guest and talk to him.
All right, and 3, 2, 1. Hello, America, and welcome back. This is Matthew Stevens, and my guest. Well, would you introduce yourself? What is your name?
Harlow P. Whitcomb.
And where are you from?
Walla,
Washington?
Washington.
And what do you do?
I am the president and recording
Secretary
of the STOA.
And what does that stand for?
The Slow Talkers of America. We believe
In speaking slowly.
in forming
Your words, your thoughts.
our ideas and opinions clearly before
Speaking
we speak. We are here
in Portland.
in the city of Portland attending
A convention.
our annual
Convention.
membership
Convention!
convention. All of our members, all 200
Members.
and 50
Members.
7
Members
members
are
are here
talking slowly
speaking slowly
so that you'll never be misunderstood.
as opposed to the members of the
TOA.
FTO,
A.
the Fast
Talkers of America.
Talkers
Of America.
of America. Our credo
To speak slowly.
goes something
Like this. This is it. Cut. I can't deal with this anymore.
One-liners by Stephen Wright. When I turned 2, I was really anxious because I doubled my age in a year. I thought if this keeps up, by the time I'm 6, I'll be 90. Once I got pulled over by a policeman and he said, "Do you know the speed limit here is 50 miles per hour?" So I said, "Oh, that's okay, I'm not going that far." When I was crossing the border into Canada, they asked me if I had any firearms with me. I said, "Well, what do you need?" I have the world's largest collection of seashells. I keep it on all the beaches of the world. Perhaps you've seen it. What's another word for thesaurus? Yesterday I was, no, that wasn't me. If you can't hear me, it's because I'm in parentheses. I saw a bank that said 24-hour banking, but I don't have that much time. I took a course in speed waiting. Now I can wait an hour in only 10 minutes. I went to a restaurant that serves breakfast at any time. So I ordered French toast during the Renaissance. I went to a general store and they wouldn't let me buy anything specifically. I went to New Seasons. The sign there said 8 items or less, so I changed my name to Les. I went to the hardware store and bought some used paint. It was in the shape of a house. I also bought some batteries, but they weren't included, so I had to buy them again. Then I went down the street to the 24-hour grocery. When I got there, the guy was locking the front door. I said, "Hey, the sign says you're open 24 hours. He said, "Yes, but not in a row." But you can't have everything. Where would you put it? Jesus at the pearly gates.
Jesus.
Hello, Peter.
Oh, Jesus, just who I'm looking for.
How are things going at the pearly gates today?
You know, they're going great, but I hear the fish are really biting over at the Sea of Tranquility. So I thought I'd go over and cast some nets. I was looking for somebody to watch the pearly gates here while I'm gone. Could you do that?
Well, sure. What do I have to do?
You're my, I was going to call you my man, but you're my son. No, you're not my son either. It's really simple. All you have to do is watch the people that are coming up to the pearly gates, ask them a couple questions, and see if they're really worthy of coming through the gates.
Sounds easy enough. Sure, I can do it.
All right, great. See you later.
Yeah, happy fishing. But do a good job. Here comes someone. Sir, please, come. Step up. My good sir, tell me, what did you do for a living?
I was a carpenter.
And did you have any family?
I had a son, but I lost him.
You lost your son? Can you tell me more about him?
Well, he had holes in his hands and feet.
Father.
Pinocchio?
The Clicking of Cuthbert by PG Wodehouse.
Waiter, you may have these plugs. Take them away. If you don't want them, give them to one of the caddies.
You are giving up golf?
Yes. Forever, damn it. Blanked, infernal, fat-headed, silly ass of a game. Nothing but a waste of time.
Don't say that, my boy.
Well, but I do say it. What earthly good is golf? Life is stern. Life is earnest. We live in a practical age. All around us, we see foreign competition making itself unpleasant. And we spend our time playing golf. What do we get out of it? Is golf any use? That's what I'm asking. Can you name me a single case where devotion to this pestilential pastime has done a man any practical good?
I could name 1,000.
One will do.
I will select from the innumerable memories that rush to my mind the story of Cuthbert Banks.
Never heard of him.
Be of good cheer, you are going to hear of him now. It was in a picturesque little settlement of Wood Hills that the incidents occurred which I am about to relate. Situated at a convenient distance from the city, it combines in a notable manner the advantages of town life with the pleasant surroundings and healthful air of the country. Its inhabitants live in commodious houses, standing in their own grounds, and enjoy so many luxuries, such as gravel, soil, main drainage, electric light, telephone, baths, hot and cold, and company's own water, that you might be pardoned for imagining life to be so ideal for them that no possible improvement could be added to their lot. Mrs. Willoughby Smethurst was under no such delusion.
What Wood Hills needs to make it perfect is culture. Material comforts are all very well, but if the summum bonum is to be achieved, the soul also demands a look-in. It is my intention to make Wood Hills a center of all that is most cultivated and refined.
And golly, how she succeeded.
Under my presidency, the Wood Hills Literary and Debating Society has tripled its membership.
But there is always a fly in the ointment, a caterpillar in the salad. The local golf club, an institution to which Mrs. Smethurst strongly objected, had also tripled its membership. And the division of the community into two rival camps,
The golfers
and
The cultured
had become more marked than ever. This division, always acute, had attained now to the dimensions of a schism. The rival sects treated another with a cold hostility. Unfortunate episodes came to widen the breach. Mrs. Smethurst's house adjoined the links, standing to the right of the fourth tee. And not long before this story opens, a sliced ball whizzing in at the open window had come within an ace of incapacitating Raymond Parslow Devine, the rising young novelist, who rose at that moment a foot and a half, from any further exercise of his art. 2 inches indeed to the right, and Raymond must inevitably have handed in his dinner pail. To make matters worse, a ring at the front doorbell
ding dong
followed almost immediately, and in walked a young man of pleasing appearance in a sweater and baggy knickerbockers, who apologetically but firmly insisted on playing his ball where it lay. And what with the shock of the lecture's narrow escape, and the spectacle of the intruder standing on the table and working away with a niblick, the afternoon session had to be classed as a complete frost. I have dwelt upon this incident because it was the means of introducing Cuthbert Banks to Mrs. Smethurst's niece, Adeline. As Cuthbert, for it was he who so nearly reduced the muster roll of rising novelists by one, hopped down from the table after his stroke, he was suddenly aware that a beautiful girl was looking at him intently. As a matter of fact, everyone in the room was looking at him intently, none more so than Raymond Parslow Devine. But none of the others were beautiful girls. Long as the members of Wood Hills Literary Society were on brain, they were short on looks. And to Cuthbert's excited eye, Adeline Smethurst
stands out like a jewel in a pile of coal.
He had seen her before, for she had only arrived, he had never seen her before, for she'd only arrived at her aunt's house on the previous day. But he was perfectly certain that life was going to be a pretty poor affair if he did not see her again. Yes, Cuthbert was in love. And it is interesting to record, as showing the effect of the tender emotion on a man's game, that 20 minutes after he had met Adeline,
I did the short in 11th and 1, and as near as a toucher, got a 3 on the 400-yard 12.
I will skip lightly over the intermediate stages of Cuthbert's courtship and come to the moment when, at the annual ball in aid of the local cottage hospital, the only occasion during the year on which the lion, so to speak, lay down with the lamb, and
the golfers,
and
the cultured
met on terms of easy comradeship, that he proposed to Adeline and was badly stymied. That fair, soulful girl could not see him with a spyglass.
Mr. Banks, I will speak frankly.
Charge right ahead.
Deeply sensible as I am of...
I know, of the honor and the compliment and all that. But passing lightly over all that guff, what seems to be the trouble? What seems to be the trouble? I love you to distraction.
Love is not everything.
You're wrong. You're right off it. Love.
I am a girl of ambition.
And very nice, too.
I am a girl of ambition, and I realize that the fulfillment of my ambitions must come through my husband. I am very ordinary myself.
What? You ordinary? Why, you are a pearl among women, the queen of your sex. You can't have been looking in a mirror lately. You stand alone, simply alone. You make the rest look like battered repeats.
Well, I believe I am fairly good looking.
Anybody who was content to call you fairly good looking would describe the Taj Mahal as a pretty nifty tomb.
But that is not the point. What I mean is, if I marry a non-entity, I shall be a non-entity myself forever, and I would sooner die than be a non-entity.
And if I follow your reasoning, you think that that lets me out?
Well, really, Mr. Banks, have you done anything, or are you likely ever to do anything worthwhile?
It's true. I didn't finish in the first 10 in the Open, and I was knocked out in the semifinal of the Amateur, but I won the French Open last year.
The what?
The French Open Championship. Golf, you know.
Golf! You waste all your time playing golf. I admire a man who's more spiritual, more intellectual.
A pang of jealousy rent Cuthbert's bosom.
Like, what's his name? Divine?
Mr. Devine is going to be a great man. Already he has achieved much. The critics say that he is more Russian than any other young American writer.
And is that good?
Of course it's good.
I should have thought the wheeze would be to be more American than any other young American writer.
Nonsense! Who wants an American writer to be American? You've got to be Russian or Spanish or something to be a real success. The mantle of the great Russians has descended on Mr. Devine.
From what I've heard of Russians, I should have hated to have that happen to me.
There is no danger of that.
Oh well, let me tell you that there's a lot more in me than you think.
That might easily be so.
You think I'm not spiritual and intellectual? Very well. Tomorrow I join the Literary Society.
Even as he spoke the words, his leg was itching to kick himself for being such a chump. But the sudden expression of pleasure on Adeline's face soothed him, and he went home that night with the feeling that he had taken on something rather attractive. It was only in the cold, gray light of the morning that he realized what he had let himself in for. I do not know if you've had any experience of suburban literary societies, but the one that flourished under the eye of Mrs. Willoughby Smethurst at Wood Hills was rather more so than the average. With my feeble powers of narrative, I cannot hope to make clear to you all that Cuthbert Banks endured in the next few weeks. And even if I could, I doubt I should do so. It is all very well to excite pity and terror, as Aristotle recommends, but there are limits. It will suffice if I say merely that J. Cuthbert Banks had a thin time. After attending 11 debates and 14 lectures on poetry, the 17th century essayists, the Neo-Scandinavian movement in Portuguese literature, and other subjects of a similar nature, he grew so enfeebled that on the rare occasions when he had time for a visit to the links,
I had to take a full iron for my mashie shots.
It was not simply the oppressive nature of the debates and lectures that sapped his vitality. What really got right in amongst him was the torture of seeing Adeline's adoration of Raymond Parslow Devine. The man seemed to have made the deepest possible impression upon her elastic emotions. When he spoke, she leaned forward with parted lips and looked at him. When he was not speaking, which was seldom, she leaned back and looked at him. And when he was sitting next to her, she leaned sideways and looked at him. One glance at Mr. Devine would have been more than enough for Cuthbert, but Adeline found him a spectacle that never palled. She could not have gazed at him with more rapturous intensity if she had been a small child and he a saucer of ice cream. All this Cuthbert had to witness while still endeavoring to retain the possession of his faculties sufficiently to enable him to duck and back away if somebody suddenly asked him,
What do you think of the somber realism of Vladimir Brusiloff?
This Vladimir Brusiloff was the famous Russian novelist. And owing to the fact of his being in the country on a lecturing tour at the moment, there had been something of a boom in his works. The Woodhills Literary Society had been studying them for weeks, and never since his first entrance into intellectual circles had Cuthbert Banks come nearer to throwing in the towel. Vladimir specialized in
grey studies of hopeless misery, where nothing happens till page 380. When the working class peasant decides to commit suicide.
It was tough going for a man. It was tough going for a man whose deepest reading hitherto had been Varden on the push shot. And there can be no greater proof of the magic of love than the fact that Cuthbert stuck it without a cry. But the strain was terrible, and I am inclined to think that he must have cracked had it not been for the daily reports in the papers of the internal strife which was proceeding so briskly in Russia. Cuthbert was an optimist at heart, and
it seems to me, at the rate of which the inhabitants of that interesting country are murdering one another, the supply of Russian novelists must eventually give out.
One morning, as he was tottering down the road for this short walk, which was now almost the only exercise to which he was equal, Cuthbert met Adeline. A spasm of anguish flitted through all his nerve centers as he saw that she was accompanied by Raymond Parslow Devine.
Good morning, Mr. Banks.
Good morning.
Such good news about Vladimir Brusiloff.
Dead?
Dead? Of course not. Why should he be? No, Aunt Emily met his manager after his lecture at Queen's Hall yesterday, and he has promised that Mr. Brusiloff shall come to her next Wednesday reception. I don't know how she managed it. I think she must have told him that Mr. Devine would be there to meet him.
But you said he was coming.
I shall be very glad of the opportunity of meeting Brusiloff.
I'm sure he will be very glad of the opportunity of meeting you.
Possibly. Competent critics have said that my work closely resembles that of the great Russian masters.
Your psychology is so deep.
Yes.
And your atmosphere. Will you be there, Mr. Banks?
Oh, sure.
When Cuthbert had entered the drawing room on the following Wednesday and had taken his usual place in a distant corner, where, while able to feast his gaze on Adeline, he had a sporting chance of being overlooked, or mistaken for a piece of furniture, he perceived the great Russian thinker seated in the midst of a circle of admiring females. Raymond Parslow Devine had not yet arrived. His first glance at the novelist surprised Cuthbert. Doubtless with the best motives, Vladimir Brusilov had permitted his face to become almost entirely concealed behind a dense zareba of hair. But his eyes were visible through the undergrowth. And it seemed to Cuthbert that there was an expression in them not unlike that of a cat in a strange backyard surrounded by small boys. The man looked forlorn and hopeless, and Cuthbert wondered whether he had had bad news from home. This was not the case. The latest news which Vladimir Brusilov had from Russia had been particularly cheering.
3 of my principal creditors perished in the last massacre of the bourgeoisie. And a man whom I've owed for years for a samovar and a pair of overshoes fled the country and has not been heard of since.
It was not bad news from home that was depressing Vladimir. What was wrong with him was the fact that this was the 82nd suburban literary reception he had been compelled to attend since he had landed in the country on his lecturing tour.
And I'm sick to death of it.
When his agent had first suggested the trip, he had signed on the dotted line without an instant's hesitation. Worked out in rubles, the fees offered had seemed just about right. But now, as he peered through the brushwood at the faces round him and realized that 8 out of 10 of those present had manuscripts of some sort concealed on their persons, and were only waiting for an opportunity to whip them out and start reading, he wished that he had stayed at his quiet home in Nizhny Novgorod, where...
The worst things that can happen to a fellow is a brace of bombs coming in through the window and mixing themselves up with my breakfast egg.
At this point in his meditations, he was aware that his hostess was looming up before him with a young man in horn-rimmed spectacles at her side. There was in Mrs. Smethurst's demeanor something of the unction of the master of ceremonies at the big fight, who introduces the earnest gentleman who wishes to challenge the winner.
Oh, Mr. Brusilov, I do so want you to meet Mr. Raymond Parslow Devine, whose work I expect you know. He is one of our younger novelists.
The distinguished visitor peered in a wary and defensive manner through the shrubbery, but did not speak. Inwardly, he was thinking how exactly alike Mr. Devine was to the 81 other younger novelists to whom he had been introduced at various hamlets throughout the country. Raymond Parslow Devine bowed courteously, while Cuthbert, wedged into his corner, glowered at him.
The critics have been kind enough to say that my poor efforts contain a good deal of the Russian spirit. I owe much to the great Russians. You see, I have been greatly influenced by Sovietsky.
Down in the forest, something stirred. It was Vladimir Brusilov's mouth opening as he prepared to speak. He was not a man who prattled readily, especially in a foreign tongue. He gave the impression that each word was excavated from his interior by some up-to-date process of mining. He glared obliquely at Mr. Devine and allowed 3 words to drop out of him.
Sovietskis no good.
He paused for a moment, set the machinery working again, and delivered 5 more at the pithead.
I spit me of Sovietsky.
There was a painful sensation. The lot of a popular idol is, in many ways, an enviable one, but it has the drawback of uncertainty. Hitherto, Raymond Parslow Devine had been greatly admired for being influenced by Sovietsky, but it appeared now that this was not a good thing to be. Mr. Devine had transgressed. Women drew away from him slightly, holding their skirts. Men looked at him censoriously. Adeline Smethurst started violently. and dropped a teacup. And Cuthbert Banks, doing this popular imitation of a sardine in his corner, felt for the first time that life held something of sunshine. Raymond Parslow Devine was plainly shaken, but he made an adroit attempt to recover his loss of prestige.
When I say that I have been influenced by Sovietsky, I mean, of course, that I was once under his spell. A young writer commits many follies, you understand. I have long since passed through that ugly phase. The false glamour of Sovietsky has ceased to dazzle me. I now belong wholeheartedly to the school of nasty cough.
There was a reaction. People nodded at one another sympathetically. After all, we can not expect old heads on young shoulders. And a lapse at the outset of one's career should not be held against one who has eventually seen the light.
Nasty cough, no good. Nasty cough, worse than Sovietsky. I spit me a nasty cough.
This time there was no doubt about it. It was clear to the entire assembled company that they had been all wrong about Raymond Parslow Devine. They had taken him at his own valuation and had been cheated into admiring him as a man who amounted to something. And all the while he had belonged to the school of nasty cough. You never can tell. Mrs. Smethurst's guests were well-bred, and there was consequently no violent demonstration. But you could see by their faces what they felt. Those nearest Raymond Parslow jostled to get further away. Mrs. Smethurst eyed him stonily. Raymond Parslow Devine hesitated for a moment, then, realizing the situation, turned and slunk to the door. There was an audible sigh of relief as it closed behind him. Vladimir Brusilov proceeded to sum up.
No novelist any good except me. Sovietsky, ja. Nasty cough, bah. I spit me of them all. No novelist anywhere any good except me. PG Wodehouse and Tolstoy, not bad. Not good, but not bad. No novelist any good except me.
And after having uttered this dictum, he removed a slab of cake from a nearby plate, steered it through the jungle, and began to chant. It is too much to say there was a dead silence. There could never be that in any room in which Vladimir Brusilov was eating cake. But certainly what you might call the general chit-chat was pretty well down and out. Nobody liked to be the first to speak. The members of the Woodhills Literary Society looked at one another timidly. Cuthbert, for his part, gazed at Adeline, and Adeline gazed into space. It was plain that the girl was deeply stirred. Her eyes were opened wide. A faint flush crimsoned her cheeks, and her breath was coming quickly. Adeline's mind was in a whirl.
I feel like I've been walking gaily along a pleasant path and have stopped suddenly on the very brink of a precipice.
It would be idle to deny that Raymond Parslow Devine had attracted her extraordinarily. She had taken him at his own valuation as an extremely hot potato. And her hero worship had gradually been turning to love. And now, her hero had been shown to have had feet of clay. Enough to say that the glamour of Raymond Devine ceased abruptly in that moment for Adeline, and her most coherent thought at this juncture was the resolve.
As soon as I get to my room, I will burn the 3 signed photographs he sent me and give the autographed presentation set of his books to the grocer's boy.
Mrs. Smethurst, meanwhile, having rallied somewhat, was endeavoring to set the feast of reason and flow of soul going again.
And how do you like America, Mr. Bruce?
The celebrity paused in the act of lowering another segment of cake.
Damn good.
Well, I suppose you have traveled all over the country by this time.
You said it.
And have you met many of our great public men?
Yes. Quite a few of the nibs. The president, I meet him. But I not meet your real great men. Your Volkswagen and your Wiener Schrasen. I not meet them. That's what gives me the Pipovich. Have you ever met Volkswagen and Wiener Schrasen?
A strained, anguished look came into Mrs. Smethurst's face, and was reflected in the faces of the other members of the circle. The eminent Russian had sprung two entirely new ones on them, and they felt their ignorance was about to be exposed. What would Vladimir Brusilov think of the Woodhills Literary Society? The reputation of the Woodhills Literary Society was at stake, trembling in the balance, and coming up for the third time. In dumb agony, Mrs. Smethurst rolled her eyes about the room, searching for someone capable of coming to the rescue. She drew blank. And then, from a distant corner, there sounded a deprecating cough.
I think he means Walter Hagen and Jean Saracen.
Walter Hagen and Jean Saracen. I never.
Yes. Most, very. Volkswagen and Wiener Schrasen. You know them? Yes, what? No, perhaps?
I played with Walter Hagen often, and I was partnered with Jean Saracen in last year's Open.
You play in the Open! Why was I not been introduced to this young man who plays in Opens?
Oh, well, this is Mr. Bristol.
Introduct me!
Oh, sorry. This is Mr.
Banks.
Banks. Not Cuthbert Banks.
Is your name Cuthbert?
Well, it's Cuthbert.
Yes, Cuthbert.
There was a rush and swirl as the effervescent Muscovite burst his way through the throng and rushed to where Cuthbert sat. He stood for a moment eyeing him excitedly, then, stooping swiftly, kissed him on both cheeks before Cuthbert could get his guard up.
My dear young man, I saw you win the French Open. Great, grand, superb. Hot stuff, and you can say I say so. Will you permit one who is but 18 at Nizhny Novgorod to salute you once more?
And he kissed Cuthbert again.
Let me tell you, you are a great man.
Oh, no.
Yes, it's great, most, very. The way you lay your approach putts dead from anywhere.
Oh, I don't know.
Let me tell you one very funny story about putting. It was one day I played at Nizhny Novgorod with the pro against Lenin and Trotsky. And Trotsky had a 2-inch putt for the hole. But just as he addresses the ball, someone in the crowd tries to assassinate Lenin with a revolver. You know, that is our great national sport. Trying to assassinate Lenin with a revolver. And the bang puts Trotsky off his stroke, and he goes 5 yards past the hole. And then Lenin, who is rather shaken, you understand, he misses again himself, and we win the hole and match, and I clean up 396,000 rubles. Or $5 in your money. Some game of it. And now, let me tell you one other very funny story.
Desultory conversation had begun in murmurs over the rest of the room, as the Woodhills specialists politely endeavored to conceal the fact that they realized they were about as much out of it at this reunion of twin souls as cats at a dog show. From time to time, they started as Vladimir Brusilov's laughed. Perhaps it was a consolation to them to know that he was enjoying himself. As for Adeline, how shall I describe her emotions? She was stunned. Before her very eyes, the stone which the builders had rejected had become the main thing. The 100-to-1 shot had walked away with the race. A rush of tender admiration for Cuthbert Banks flooded her heart. She saw that she had been all wrong. Cuthbert, whom she had always treated with a patronizing superiority, was really a man to be looked up to and worshipped. A deep, dreamy sigh shook Adeline's fragile form. Half an hour later, Vladimir and Cuthbert Banks rose.
Goodbye, Miss Smetthirst. Thank you for a most charming visit. My friend Cuthbert and me, we now go to shoot a few holes. You will lend me cloves, friend Cuthbert?
Any you want.
The Niblicksky is what I use most. Goodbye, Miss Smetthirst.
They were moving to the door when Cuthbert felt a light touch on his arm. Adeline was looking up at him tenderly.
May I come too and walk round with you?
Cuthbert's bosom heaved.
Oh, that you would walk around with me for life.
Her eyes met his.
Perhaps it could be arranged.
And so you see that golf can be of the greatest practical assistance to a man in life's struggle. Raymond Parslow Devine, who was no player, had to move out of the neighborhood immediately, and is now, I believe, writing scenarios out in California for the Flickr Film Company. Adeline is married to Cuthbert, and it was only his earnest pleading which prevented her from having their eldest son christened
Francis, we met ribbed-faced Mashy Banks.
For she is now as keen a devotee of the great game as her husband. Those who know them say that theirs is a union so devoted, so...
Waiter! Bring back my clubs!
The end. Part 3. As you may know, this is not only a comedy night and fun fundraising event, but it also is a good excuse to celebrate a very special birthday for a very special person. And oh my goodness, we have Jupiter and Saturn here to say something.
Diva, I have returned. This is Jupiter. You know, it takes me 12 years to orbit around the sun to get to the same place I was when you were born. According to my calculations, that's 5 reunions.
Hey, that's nothing. It takes me 29 and a half years to orbit around to the same point I was at when you were born. So, I arrived at the party a little before you, but this is only the second time that I've returned.
Well, you know what else, Saturn? Since Diva's birth, this is the first time you and I have returned at the same time.
Wow! So, so what?
Well, every 12 years when I return,
signifies great changes occur in a person's life.
And every 29 and a half years, when I return, it makes people face their responsibility for their continued spiritual growth.
So the both of us returning at the same time means?
This is a powerful birthday for a very special soul.
Well, let's make this even more special, okay? Let's offer our joy and our love and our blessings by chanting Om 3 times.
And I think you ought to come up here, Doug, and stand.
Here we go.
Thank you for your love, your friendships, for your service to God and gurus, for the light that shines through all of you, and for what you do to bring light into this world. Thank you.
Happy birthday to
you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Dinah. Master's blessings on you.
Doo-dum-dum, 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 doo-doo-doo-doo-dum-dum, doo-doo-doo-doo. I got sunshine on a cloudy day. When it's cold outside, I got the month of May. Well, I guess you'd say, what can make me feel this way? Clean up, clean up, clean up. Talking about clean up, clean up. I don't need no money, fortune or fame. I got all the riches, baby, one never can claim. Well, I guess we'd say, what can make you feel this way? Clean up, clean up, clean up. Talking about clean up, clean up. We got the kitchen to clean up completely. Talking about clean up, clean up. We got the temple to clean up for service. Talking about clean up, clean up. We got the carpet to vacuum completely. Talking about clean up, clean up.